Hello everyone, this is Shino from Blossom, and today I'm going to be reviewing and doing a mini guide on the new Valentine event boss. As of today, which is January 31st, we have an easy, normal, and hard mode added, which is going to be all we're going to have until the second half, which is going to be on the 2nd of February. So this will be a guide mainly focusing on hard mode, but this will also apply to extra once it comes out. However, I am most likely going to make a more detailed guide on the extra difficulty once it comes out, detailing the best characters and ability cards to use, which is a little bit more forgivable in hard mode, so I think a separate video for extra should shed some light on that. As for the boss, he's very similar to Gleam Eyes. A lot of his attacks are taken straight from Gleam Eyes, so they should be familiar to most people that played the game early on, but even if you didn't, this guy is pretty easy to dodge and just switch out of, so no one should really have any issues with getting hit. As for the characters, Gleam Eyes is a wind boss, which means fire units are going to be the go-to units for this boss. We are looking for an awakening character, a burst character, and a DPS. Now, I'm not going to be considering any water characters in this guide, since they are not really recommended at all for any kind of wind boss. However, I will be showing wind characters because even if they aren't super effective against the boss, they still dish out a decent amount of damage. For burst characters, there's quite a bit of characters you can pick out of. I recommend War Hero Kirito, Master Macer Elizabeth, or the New Year Asuna. These are all really good burst characters that would work perfectly for this boss. War Hero Kirito and the New Year Asuna specifically would be really good because of their pain infliction, which increases burst accumulation. Now, as for wind units, the only real good wind unit burst character that I could think of is the OG SSR Shinon. She just has a very good first skill that has a lot of burst accumulation, and she's a good pick if you don't have a fire unit. As for Awakening, this is the only part that I will consider using a water unit. However, the only water unit that I think is worth using is the Battle Pass Kirito, but only if accompanied by another character that can also accumulate Awakening while also serving their role, since the Battle Pass Kirito has a really long cooldown on his skill. The best character to pair with Battle Pass Kirito in this setting is Wind Asuna, since she can build Awakening as Battle Pass character uses his first skill, and it'll add up to about 40% Awakening by the time Kirito is done with his skill, which is pretty good. Moving past that, the best Awakening unit that I think you could possibly have is the SSR OG Fire Alice. Now, I really don't think I can come up with a better character for Awakening than Alice, so I'm just going to say that if you don't have the OG Fire SSR Alice, you could use an SR or R Alice, especially the Fire R Alice unit. She's the one I'm using and she's doing just fine. However, if you for some reason don't have any Fire Alice units, you can still use the Wind SR Alice unit. I wouldn't recommend using the R Water Alice, but if you really need to, then I guess you do what you have to do. You just won't get much damage out of her. As for DPS units, there are 3 that I really recommend. Number 1 being Layla. She is very good. She's a very good fire unit, especially for DPS. Number 2 would be Black Swordsman Kirito. And number 3 would be Wind Asuna. Now, these 3 work just as well as the other. Normally, you would pick the fire unit because it does more damage, especially with the right cards, but if you don't have any of the 2 units, you won't lose out on much. The ability card section of this guide is going to be very simple, very straightforward. You're just going to want abilities that enhance the role of whatever character you put in each role. For example, for Awakening characters, you're going to want cards that increase Awakening. For example, the Exquisite Link Attack Asuna card is very good. It increases Awakening gauge accumulation by 5% and increases strength by 10% when awakened. For my burst character, it's basically the same thing. I'm running cards that increase my burst accumulation. For my character, I am running the Flash's Will that increases burst gauge accumulation by 10%. I'm also using the new ability card that was given out for this event, Heart Stopping Makeup, which increases my burst accumulation by 5% when my HP is 50% or higher. My other card that I'm using is not a free-to-play card, unfortunately, but I am using Osmanthus' Radiance, which increases my rush gauge accumulation by 5% and increases my burst time by 2 seconds. If you don't have this card, however, you could just use any of the free-to-play cards that increases burst gauge accumulation. Any at all that just increases that, you could use. As for the DPS character, you're going to want skills that increase his personal damage. For example, for my DPS, I am running Black Swordsman Kirito, which means I'm going to be running a lot of fire elemental skills. I am running Second Coming of the Hero. I'm running 2 of those, which give me 5% skill power and additional 5% when using a fire elemental skill, which he is fire elemental, so it's technically 10% skill power on both of them. And I am also running a Decisive Strike at star 4, which gives me 12% skill power and an additional 14% when using a fire elemental skill. Now, if you don't have any of these 2 skills, you're just going to want a lot of skill power skills, or you could alternatively, you could use skills that increases your strength stat, which naturally does more damage. You're just going to want a solid DPS build on your DPS character so it can do as much damage as possible, but most of the time he is going to be doing more damage than the rest of your team anyway, so I don't think you should stress too much about it. But if you have any skills that increases his skill power, especially his elemental skill power, then you're going to want to put those on your DPS. So here I'm going to be showcasing what I'm running. So on my DPS Kirito here, I am running 2 Second Comings of the Hero for all the skill power and the additional 5% when using a fire elemental skill. So I'm running 2 of those on him, and then I'm running a Decisive Strike, which is 4-starred, which increases my skill power by 12% and additional 14% when using a fire elemental skill. Now for my Awakening character, I am running 3 Exquisite Link attacks card because they stack. And yes, this will make sure that my Alice is doing as much Awakening as possible. For my burst, I am using 3 burst enhancing ability cards. I'm using the Flash's Will, which increases my burst gauge accumulation by 10%. Then I am using the new card Heart Stopping Makeup, which increases my burst gauge accumulation by 5% when my HP is 50% or higher. And then I am using Osmanthus' Radiance, as I said, which increases my burst accumulation by 5% and my burst time by 2 seconds. So this is the build that I am currently using to run the boss. It's very good. I haven't seen any problems with it. It definitely could be better if I had the new characters. Obviously, I didn't mention them in this guide, but seeing as they were made specifically for this event, they are naturally very good at it, and they are most likely the definitive characters to use if you have them. I personally don't, which is why I'm not using them, or else I would use them, but I'm not using them, and I'm going to be showing in a second a run with these characters that I have right here. Hello, little last note here from the future. I did just catch up on Litzbeth's kit, the new one, and I saw that she inflicts sleep. The new boss is weak to the sleep status effect, so that could be good. Obviously, if you have the new Litzbeth, that you should get her if you wanna, if you wanna get to this event easier. But yeah, she's not a necessity, as I said. I've read up on some comments. I've read up on some people that have used the new Litzbeth, and she says that she doesn't trigger sleep very often, anyways. So apparently, it's kind of disappointing. But if that is a thing to mention, if you have her or if you're trying to go for her, she will make the boss a little easier. Allegedly, I don't have her, as I said. So anyway, well, we're just gonna continue with the video now. Just a little side note I wanted to let you guys know, and yeah. So as we start here, I'm just going to be doing some commentary, kind of explaining what I'm doing. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna start off with Litzbeth. We're gonna start getting some Awakening. For the strategy, you're going to want to almost build half the Awakening bar. Not the Awakening, the burst gauge. About halfway through, before you actually activate your Awakening, so that you can basically guarantee that you can get full burst and then kill him. So I'm going to be using my War Hero Kirito here a little bit more than my Alice, so that I can build my burst. I should have waited there so that I could just switch, but it is what it is. not actually going to activate Awakening yet. Going to, as I said, try to get almost halfway through. That should be enough. So now we're going to go into Awakening, and we're going to switch to our hero Kirito, and he's going to do the rest of the burst gauge. And there we go. So now we're just going to basically just spam our skills. And there we go. So that is the gist of it. You want to build almost half of your burst gauge, and then you want to activate your Awakening. You might not need, if you see that you are doing too much Awakening, you might want to take out the Awakening cards from your Alice. But me personally, I'm building this in the future just like for extra as well. And for extra, we are going to need the Awakening cards because they are essential for constant damage. So we are, right now for hard, it might be better to take them off so that you can more properly manage that. But at least for extra, you're going to need them. So I'm just going to keep them on her. For now, it's fine. And yeah, that's basically the gist of the boss. Hey, just a little end card here since the guide is over. We have a Discord server we use for our guild, which will be put in the description. If you joined, we are regularly trying to find ways to effectively clear these bosses, so if you have anything to add, leave them in the comments or tell us in the Discord server. We are currently still recruiting members for the guild, so if you are interested, you can join and we will look at your application. Thanks for watching, and that's it for me.